Hello, or as we say in Darwin colloquially, how you going, brass? It's amazing. I'm totally honored to be here, and the stage feels like home. And I'm a little bit embarrassed too, because everyone else has got all these cool, slides and presentations and things like that, and all I got is this napkin. Keep it real. So napkins are funny things, aren't they? I mean, you see them around everywhere. They're just there, and you grab it when you want some food, and you wipe it on your face, and once you're done, you put it in the bin or the pocket or something like that. They're not very valuable, are they? I mean, they're just everywhere. But the funny thing is, as a paid professional speaker, I go into organizations and inspire and motivate them, and do whatever. Well, one of my last gigs, I had a few people in the audience fighting over themselves for my napkin. And it's not because, they saw me and thought, ooh, it's AJ, ooh, black magic. No, none of that. It's because I wrote a business strategy on this napkin. And I charged a lot of people for this business strategy, and the audience there wanted to know what the hell I had written on the napkin. And so I had people fighting over themselves, and it was really interesting. And it got me thinking about this notion of becoming valuable. I'm obsessed with it, because when you become valuable, people want to know you, and if you've got a message to share, the only way to actually take it out there to the rest of the world is to become valuable enough for people to listen to you. And it got me thinking about how all these people became valuable, because that's what I love doing. I love studying people who are valuable and then going back and working out how did they become so valuable. And it drove me it's what gets me up in the morning. Everyone talks about passion and stuff. That's what gets me up in the morning. I love finding out what makes people valuable. And in my journey of finding what makes people valuable, I stumbled across the greatest scam that I believe has been concocted in the world today. And the scam is that when you go into a job, or you're in employment or in business or something like that, you hear a lot of people say, work smarter, not harder. And I just thought, what idiot came up with that? Because no one ever who became valuable ever worked smarter. And I thought about this some more, and all working smarter does, it teaches you to take your time management skills to a new level. It teaches you to take this amount of work and do it in this amount of time. It teaches you to take this amount of tasks and try and outsource it to do it in this amount of time. And I thought, my God, that's really interesting. Because the fact of the matter is, when you're deep in your employment and your job and your business and your life and all that, right, time management skills will not make you valuable, because you can still do this amount of work. Your capacity is to do this amount of work. And even if you try to bring it down and go home early or things like that, do you reckon your boss will let you go home early? No, because you've got this amount of capacity. And what happens when managers find out that your capacity is still there, but you're doing this amount of work and going home early? Do you think they'll be like, oh, he's got enough work or she's got enough work? No, they'll fill you up. And all of a sudden, you start to work smarter, and then all of a sudden, the work builds up, and then all of a sudden, you're just feeling so inundated, and then you stress out. And then you look around at everyone else around you, and they start to be doing better than themselves, better than you. And I got to that point in my life, and I was like, I must be doing something wrong. So what is the alternative to working smarter? And that is working harder, yeah? Right, let's go all and work harder. Let's go out and work 14-hour days, 16-hour shifts, I don't know. But, and I stumbled across that saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And I thought, what kind of person was smoking that, It just doesn't work. I mean, I asked that question of cool young people all around the world and say, how do you work hard? Do you feel lucky? And they say, no. I don't feel lucky at all. I feel stressed. My family doesn't like me. So I thought, this is nuts. And then, because I'm obsessed with how to become valuable, I dug a little bit deeper and I found out there's actually a missing link between working harder and becoming lucky. And when I found out this missing link, I was like, oh man, why don't I just do that? And the missing link, and this will blow your mind from simplicity, so, get ready, is to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I was like, damn, that's it? There's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to this. But no, That's all it is. Everyone, every single person who has become valuable at some point or other has worked harder on themselves than they did on their job. And what I mean by that is they build up skills themselves to make them more valuable instead of working longer hours in their job and feeling stressed. And I guarantee you, if you work harder on yourself, you're not going to get stressed out unless exam time, obvious exception. But that was really interesting discovery. So then, I used to work for this corporation, and I was working long hours, and I was stressed out and stuff like that. And so I thought, I want to work harder on myself. And in your job, it's such a small part of you, yet it takes up so much time. It takes up your whole life if you're not careful about it. So I started thinking outside my job. I started thinking about, what do I want as a career? Traditionally your job and your career were the same thing, but now, so many people have got sequence of jobs and that becomes a career. Some people change career. Like I studied IT. How on earth did I end up as a motivational speaker? It's nuts. Actually, on that, people who study IT, when they get out of IT, they do totally crazy stuff. Like I know firemen, I know skydivers. It's crazy. I just am a speaker. So on that note, it's just really fascinating to see what makes people valuable, and guarantee you, all the people who have become valuable have all worked harder on themselves to build up their skills that make them valuable to their organization or beyond that, to that industry. And when you think about what happens at the industry level, it's pretty exciting because you learn what's valuable there at the industry level and you become that valuable and beautiful things start to happen in your career. I'm reminded of a musical philosopher named Stephanie Germanotta, who once said, "Roma, Roma, ma, ga, ga, ooh la la." I have no idea what that means, but a few people around the world do. Because Stephanie Germanotta, as her alter ego, Lady Gaga, has sold 22 million albums and 69 million singles in a space of 3 years. Gaga, ooh la la. And do you think that she did it by working smarter? No. See, Lady Gaga has only probably recently been very popular in mainstream for probably about 2-3 years, maybe more. And all of a sudden, she just appeared on stage wearing a meat dress. I can't pull that off for obvious reasons. But I am obsessed with people's backstories. I want to know what she did to become that valuable. And to sell that many records and albums and all that, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. And it's because she became valuable enough for a management team to come along and say, yeah, we want you. So it's all about becoming valuable, in different contexts. And that's really interesting. The next example I have is everyone's favorite talk show host, Oprah. And whether you love her or hate her or whatever, she's one of the most successful talk show hosts of all time. And I don't really care if her ratings are going down and she's outdated and all that. She has amazing pulling power. Her generosity is amazing, and if you go to one of her shows, she'll give you a car. She'll give you jewelry, But the fact of the matter is, they aren't her gifts. They're corporate-sponsored gifts. Now, before you beat me up for saying she's not generous, Oprah is one of the most generous people I know because she does a lot of work through her foundations and things like that, right? But to be valuable enough to attract corporate sponsorship, that when a GM produces a new car, they say, how do we take this out to the world? I'll get it on Oprah. Done. That amount of value is amazing. And if you've got a gift that you want to share with the world, if you become valuable, you can just take it out there. It's amazing. And Oprah's one person who stopped working smarter to become more valuable in her life. My last example is a weird one, and here's obviously not weird, but it's an unusual one because I am going to speak to you about Mr. Social Media. Mr. Social Media is probably one of the world's greatest speakers on social media, simply because his name's Gary Vaynerchuk. Have you guys heard of Gary Vaynerchuk? Yeah, a few people have? All right, cool. Now, Gary Vaynerchuk is known as a wine guy simply because he worked in his family's wine business. What the hell does he know about social media? He's a wine guy. So I had a look at his backstory, and it turns out that he was growing his family business. His job was sitting in the cashier and selling people wine. Sure, it was a family business and whatnot, but he decided to go out and get an education to help him grow the business. right? And that was really interesting to see that. And he leveraged social media in a time that Facebook and Twitter and all that weren't mainstream. He leveraged these tools to get his business to that level. Gaga, ooh la la. And it was interesting because now he's a world amazing speaker on social media. And it just goes to show you the power of when you work out what is valuable and then become that, beautiful things start to happen. Yeah? So how do we become valuable? And one of the things that I teach my students when I go speak around schools is my motto, which is 4 words that have really changed my life. It's called dream, build, inspire, lead. And it starts off by dream great dreams. Don't let anyone take your dreams away from you. Because when you're down and you're out and times of toughness, your dreams and your passion for those dreams will help you through those hard times. Build amazing things. How many of you guys have got mobile phone cameras? Yeah? Yeah, a lot of you, right? And the reason why you have that is that an engineer by the name of Philip Kahn wanted to take photos of his newborn baby and send it out to the world. But the technology did not exist at the time for him to do that. So what did he do? While his wife was giving birth to their first child, he sat in the waiting room writing up programs on his laptop, and he sent an assistant out to Radio Shack to actually get wire and soldering irons and stuff like that. And he connected his camera to his mobile phone, and using a laptop program that he wrote on the laptop, he was able to take photos of his newborn children and send it out to the world. And because he built something amazing, all of us here today leverage off that gift. And we don't even think twice. It's like, hey, that looks cool. Snap. Hey, that looks awesome. Video. Facebook. Yeah. It's phenomenal how that works, you know. Inspire those around you. When you're truly inspired, if you think back to a moment when you've been truly inspired, at that very moment, something amazing happens. You feel as though you're untouchable. You feel as though you're unstoppable. You feel as though you can change the world. And then, of course, life comes along and knocks it out of you. But imagine in that moment, if you could inspire those around you, what would that mean to your team? What would that mean to your family? What would that mean to your friends? You know? That's just amazing. And if you can do that every time you answer the phone, send off an email, read a blog, and just be inspired and pass that on, it'd be really amazing. The last thing, and I tell students this, is to lead through motivation. I hate it when people come up to me and say, hey, can you do this? And I say, why? And they say, just cause. Or they'll say more commonly, because do it, I'm your dad. Don't even go there, that's another story. Or do it because I'm your parent, or do it because, you know, of position of power. Man, if you lead someone through motivation, it is one of the most powerful leadership techniques out there. It shows that you are taking the time to understand what makes them tick, you know, and you can do that. And when you lead through motivation, you move a person forward, sometimes even better than they think they can go themselves. You know, that's really powerful. So dream, build, inspire, lead, you know, and I want to share that with you today. The last thing I'm going to tell you is please stop working smarter, because no one ever became valuable in their careers or their job or their business by working smarter. And I want you to think back to this napkin, you know. If you see a napkin out there, you can use it to, you know, wipe your mouth and do whatever. Or you could think about how you can turn, what can you write on a napkin to make it more valuable to someone? You know, and it's probably changed, you know, like Adam was saying, when you go to a barbecue, there's bound to be napkins there. So while you're telling the story, you might want to grab a napkin and, you know, write it down. So ladies and gentlemen, please dream great dreams, build amazing things, inspire those around you, and lead through motivation. And for God's sake, stop working smarter. Thank you.